welcome to today's special PitchBoxing episode. Myself, Martin Theobald, delighted to be joined by soon-to-be Super Middleweight World Title Challenger and hopefully champion, John Ryder. How you doing, John?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you've got a renewed interest in the WBO Super Middleweight title, something you were just saying a second ago has been in the offing for a little while, but now 26th of November, O2 Arena, London, it's all there and you can announce it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started back in August. Obviously, it was meant to be Andrade fighting for the title against Parker, but that all fell through. Then there was an initial approach, but we was looking at the Munguia fight, and was really appealing to us. And then I think the Parker fight went quiet, and then Munguia went quiet. Then Berlanga was on the case, and then Parker's team was back on the case, and Berlanga went quiet, and then Munguia was back on. So I came up with a saying. I don't know if it's a true saying, but if you chase 3 chickens, you get none. So it's better to go after one. Does that make sense to whoever I made that up in my head?
Yeah, no, I'm getting visions of like a Rocky chasing chickens around in the pen.
Yeah, better to focus on one sole chicken and catch that one than trying to chase all 3, I suppose.
So although that one's now confirmed, Parker, what would have been or what was going on with the other ones then? Berlanga, Munguia?
Well, I think Berlanga was banned till mid-December, so that was a no-go. And then Munguia was just, I don't know, I think he was in a bit of contract disputes with the zone, so it's just a massive ball ache and a bit of a hold-up. So I think we've got the right fight. I think WBO interim title on the line, and I mean, you win that, successful winning that, then these big fights are still there for you. So I think we're keep getting our ducks in order and taking the right fights at the right time.
Yeah, and as much as this one's an interim title, much like Joe Joyce won the WBO heavyweight interim title, this one feels a little bit more legitimate. Is that as in like Canelo's the full title holder, but no one knows what he's doing next. He kind of does what he wants. This feels a little bit more legitimate than that Joe Joyce scenario.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a lure and appeal to these titles that if the champion does vacate or get stripped for some reason, then you get upgraded and become full champion. So that's an interest. I mean, it's not like anyone would want to win a world title that way, but there's that motivation. Obviously, you can get big fights from that and continue defending it successfully. So there's a big lure in that side of it.
Yeah, and if Canelo does choose to come back down to super middleweight, you're next in line then if you're holding that belt.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's he's taking care of business, taking care of a mandatory if he's fighting you. So that's also a good appeal to fight him. And listen, I know like with the way things are at the moment, he's out injured for the foreseeable. So who knows when he'll be back in the ring and back in action. So there's a chance that these belts could fragment and get split up and become vacant. So there's every opportunity that you could become full champion after this.
Yeah. How much have you followed Zach Parker's career?
Not bundles. I mean, if I see if he's on, I've had a look, and I didn't see the Marcus Morrison fight yet. I will obviously watch that and see what's what with it. But I watched him against Vaughan Alexander, and I watched Vaughan Alexander in LA a few years ago fight Anthony Sims Jr. and he looked like a tough, durable opponent, but Zach Parker dealt with him handedly and just made him look average. I mean, so he's a dangerous opponent, and yeah, he brings it fight night.
Will you take anything from, and not to say that you're exactly the same style-wise, but the Darryl Williams fight? Darryl Williams caused him nightmares back. It was up in Glasgow, wasn't it, for British title? Darryl Williams, that front foot aggressive style, not a million miles away from your own style. Does that give you some kind of hint as to what might cause Parker some issues?
Yeah, definitely. But I've seem to recall that Parker got injured in that fight, and I don't know if it was a back or a shoulder issue. But listen, when you're suffering with an injury in a fight, it's easy to moan to the corner and get him to pull you out. But he didn't listen. He didn't jack. He stayed in there. He bit down and he come through and he was successful. I mean, whether you like the result or not, he won the British title from it. And listen, he could have pulled himself out that night and lived to fight another day, but he put it all on the line and got the win.
Yeah, and now he's reaping the benefit a few years down the line.
That's it.
And then if you come away with that that WBO world title, so I was looking through super middleweight rankings the other day, and a lot of those big names at super middleweight have kind of moved on a bit, haven't they? And actually, I think on BoxRec, you're kind of ranked maybe number 2 behind Alvarez, I think. Is it then a mission to start looking at trying to clear up the other titles as well, if the opportunities arise?
Well, I think like if we take it that the Canelo's going to keep hold of the 4 titles, and then there's not many other titles available at super middleweight. So I know Benavidez has got the WBC interim. So I mean, to pick up the WBO interim, there's still big fights there for you. Do you know what I mean? You've got Caleb Plant, who's just won an eliminator against Anthony Durrell, and there is still these big names who have been former foes of Canelo or whoever that you can have these big nights with. So I mean, the likes of Benavidez, Plant, Anthony Durrell, even this
Jacobs is still out there for you again.
There's still big fights out there, yeah, and I suppose Andrade will be stepping up again as well to super middleweight and want to stay there. So he's always an opportunity.
Do you reckon Andrade will, like, as a boxer that wasn't involved in that whole Parker Andrade bit of a mess, wasn't it? As in, like, they were meant to fight at Pride Park, then it fell apart, then it went to purse bids, it fell apart. Does that put you off wanting to get involved with someone like Andrade?
I don't know. I suppose he's got his reasons. Who knows what his reasons were behind not fighting? But I mean, it could have been a massive event for him at Pride Park. And listen, I'm sure he's not short of a bit of self-confidence. He'd have fancied himself in that. And listen, he's always screaming from the rooftops how good he is. So put your money where your mouth is. But whatever reason, it didn't happen and it's not worked out. But listen, he's lost my game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're an away fighter going into a world title fight. This isn't your first time of being in that scenario, right? Does that cause you any alarm after the whole Callum Smith issues? And, you know, you didn't come away with a result that night. Many people thought you probably could and should have. Does that cause you alarm going into this, or are you comfortable about it?
Listen, I'm forever the people's champ now, so that'll long live on. But no, listen, it's a strange one. I mean, I'm the away fighter on an away card, fighting in London. It's not all bad. But
against a bloke from the Midlands, and you're
against a bloke from Derby. Yeah, but listen, I'll take the rough for the smooth. I've been on ITV shows with Richard Poxton put on against Adam Etches. I was on a show against Patrick Nielsen on a Salon show. Billy Joe Saunders. I was in a show in Austria last year. So, listen, yeah, away days are nothing new. And I think sometimes it's easier to go on an away day when you're not the betting favourite and go and shine. Yeah,
so you've been on a Queensbury show before against Billy Joe Saunders many years back. That sparked one of my favourite like falling outs after a fight night of all time, where I think there were lots of question marks from where Barry Hearn wanted to go along and bring people, and Andy Ayling wrote an open letter afterwards about it all. Are you anticipating, because I mean the relationship hasn't got, you know, hugely better between Matchroom and Queensbury, are you foreseeing there'll be those kind of stresses again, or are you hoping it'll be a little bit smoother?
Well, I hope not, because ultimately Barry was Bazza, as I like to call him, was only there to support me that night. And listen, he's supported me throughout my career, and he's told me the harsh realities at time, but he's also backed me to the hill. So, listen, if he's there, I hope he can be treated with the respect that they'd like to be treated with, and be granted access to a ring to celebrate or whatnot. So, listen, fingers crossed that bridges can be built, and listen, we've got the fight over the line, so it's not all dead in the water.
Yeah, and he's one of the elder statesmen, isn't he, Barry? Just let him have his moment, his dignity to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, he'd just give him the freedom to the O2. Do you know what I mean? Let him go in Gaucho's, get his free steak, and go and have a beer in one of the pubs if he wants, and not have to pay a penny. He's been in the game long enough. He's paid his dues, and he's probably been there and done it twice.
Indeed. Are you worried about ring rust at all? going to be 9 months, is it, I think, since you fought Jacob, by the time you get into the ring in November?
I think it's always a worry, but listen, Zach's not fought since November last year, so it'll be that if I'm rusty and WD-40 won't do it, he's going to need 2 tins. So we'll see. But listen, I think we're both active in the gym and getting our rounds banked in the gym, sparring and whatnot. So I think, listen, it might be cautious for a round or two, but then I'm sure it'll catch a light.
How is your gym? You mentioned about being in the gym. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment around your gym and the people around the Conor Ben fight. Has that kind of impacted upon yourself around others in the gym, or is it all you let that happen and you carry on with what you're up to?
It's one of them things. I mean, you try not to let it affect you, but it does feel like we've taken a big loss in the gym. I mean, started off with Joe Cordina being stripped of his newly crowned IBF title, which was a massive shame. I was there the day that he busted his hand again, and
that was a strange one. People have had bigger injuries or bigger delays and not being stripped, and that's a hard one for Joe. Yeah,
it's a shame. I said, but like I say, I mean, Zelfa Barrett's got an opportunity now to go in there and fight for a vacant title. And listen, if all works out well, then it can be a good British showdown for the title for Joe to be back in line mandatory for and to win his title back. So I think everything for a reason. And then a few days later, the deal with Conor, and just a shame. Everyone was looking forward to that fight, and a real fight for the ages. That, I mean, 30 years ago, people would have seen their fathers fight, and now it was the turn of the sun. So we've missed out there. I just hope in time that everything comes to light and people see that Conor's not guilty of this, and he can clear his name.
How much were you working with Conor in the build up to it? Were you sparring?
I wasn't. I'd had one spar with him a couple of weeks out. I mean, obviously, I'm not suitable for Eubank style. I'm southpaw. I'm not. Don't move like he does. Throw the shots like he does. So I think we done a bit of work on stuff in up close and whatnot, and it was good. I mean, Conor looked sharp. I was lucky enough to move around with Nigel that day as well. Done a round of sparring at the end, so that was great. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I grew up watching Nigel, so just to share a room with him and let him throw some lever at me was good.
Yeah, got to live a dream.
That's it.
Yeah, and then should you come through November 26th, there's a handful of British fighters that are in and around that kind of top 20, top 30 in the world. Would you fancy trying to get a British fight? Because you've got a history of many British fights. Is that something that kind of whets your appetite a little bit for the future?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, but like the likes of these Munguias, Caleb Plants and whatnot, they really excite me. They really get my mouth watering. And listen, the attraction of fighting Canelo is no bigger attraction. I mean, go out. I don't know. Everyone wants to fight Canelo in Vegas. I'd like to fight him in the Azteca in Mexico. What was it, 100,000 screaming Mexicans baying for blood? Imagine that.
Yeah, that'd be like when you went to Liverpool times 100.
Yeah. I mean, how about going to the Lion's Den for it? That'd be some experience, wouldn't it?
Excellent. So that what the ultimate aim would be then? Come out of this, if not a Munguia, if not a Jacobs rematch, even then, ideally get Canelo in there.
Yeah, well, mate, that would be top of the list. Do you know what I mean? Get fight Canelo and get my shot at undisputed. That'd be nice. But yeah, listen, I'd fight him anywhere. That's a fight I'd love. But I'm solely focused on Zach Parker and what he brings to the table first of all.
Yeah. And how do you prepare for someone like a Parker in that he's on that KO streak at the moment? He seems to have changed style a little bit over the last probably 24 months, focusing a lot more on the power and setting his shots. Have you got people in mind that you've got already lined up to spar to replicate him?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I've got Felix Cash and Craig Richards in the gym, and so I mean, the big awkward fuckers them two. Do you know what I mean? So obviously got Felix for the sharpness and Spider for the size. But we'll get more southpaws in. We'll get other opponents in. But I mean, I'm lucky with them two Felix has got the speed and Craig's got the size and the power. So,
yeah,
I mean, for in-house sparring, you can't really get much better.
Yeah, it's quite a touch. Right, John, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for PitchBoxing. November 26th, O2 Arena on BT Sport. Wish you nothing but the best, and then move on to the Azteca in Mexico in front of 100,000 screaming Mexicans for that Canelo undisputed fight.
That's it. Who wants it?
Excellent. We wish you all the best, John. Appreciate it massively.
Lovely. Thank you much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate. You take care.